Hello and welcome to Tugs and Tales. My name is Mackenzie Cadby, and again I'm joined by Chris Mason. Here today we are going to preview the first 3 months of the 2018 darting calendar and talk about some surprises, some things we've looked at and thought, you know what, some people have done really well.
And some people have not done that great. One of them being MVG, incredibly. Yeah. Players' Championship was his last major ranking title. Yeah. I know he won the Grand Slam just prior to that, but didn't win the Worlds. That went to Rob Cross. Yeah. Didn't dominate the UK Open qualifiers. Certainly didn't dominate the UK Open because he fell at the first hurdle. So not really a cause for concern, but definitely a talking point.
I think for me, moving into 2018, he struggled a little bit. And for me, it stems from not only the World Championship, but the match play, getting beat by Phil and all this, and Phil leaving. There's a lot of things happened over the last couple of months in darts, and everything's now evolving and everything's getting bigger and better.
I think the big problem is everything's revolving around everybody else.
And not him.
And not him.
Yeah.
And he genuinely doesn't like that. No. Like any sportsman, they love to dominate, they love to be the talking point, and they love to be the centre of attention. And at the moment, he's not. For me,
he's not played unbelievably bad. He's at 110 average against Gary. He's played in 5 qualifiers in terms of the Pro Tour this year in the UK Open and the Players' Championship, and he's won 4.
Yep.
So he's not playing bad. It's just at the moment.
Only Gary is just behind him on. He's played 7 and won 3.
Yeah. So it's very interesting to see how the two players themselves are playing. Gary at the moment, like we said earlier, he's on a crest of a wave. He's playing so positively. But someone for me who I want to talk about is Corey. Now, Mr. Corey Cadby's come all the way from Australia, went in straight in the first day of Q School, won a card, did exactly what he said to me he was going to do at Lakeside, and I was like, here we go. I didn't expect this up in the first day. I thought it might have been a bit too much for him in terms of the fact that there's a lot of people in the room.
And let's not forget, a player who made the semi-final of the most recent major, the UK Open, Dave Pallett, didn't get a tour card.
That's another thing. I mean, he was another gentleman that I wanted to talk about. Dave Pallett's been around for a couple of years now and hasn't probably performed as to the best of what he believes that he can perform, and he showed it at the UK Open, in my opinion. And you know, these players, Jeffrey Deswan, Dave Pallett, Dimitri,
Jeffrey de Graaf,
they're all really starting to grasp the money that is there in the pot to be taken.
Yeah, Corey Cadby is obviously the one that is standout. Like you said, day one, gets his tour card, goes to UK Open, wins one of those, and made the final of the UK Open. Only stopped by, in my opinion, who's the best player in the world right now. In Gary Anderson. I know there's a long way to go throughout the year, but we didn't see MVG dominate last year. He won the majority of the World Series events. We know that, but they're not ranking. He had a fabulous Grand Slam. Didn't win the match play. Didn't win the UK Open because he wasn't in it. And someone like Corey Cadby's got to be looking and thinking, you know, there's a chance for me this year to win. There's a genuine shout. He could win one of the majors this year. If not one of the majors, we know he's been invited into the World Series events, which he's got to fancy. He didn't play in the Players' Championships most recently. He's gone back to Australia. He's getting married. Congratulations with that, Corey, and your soon-to-be wife. So it's a whole new start and a new beginning for him. And he's now, if he wasn't, you know, well, some players respond differently. Some players like to just play for themselves. And just win trophies. Corey's very much one of those, when we've heard him being interviewed, I want to do it for my family. I want to secure a future for my children. You know, Phil was very much like that. It gave him a reason to play and a reason to practice. And he's going to be a dangerous man this year. I mean, he didn't perform anywhere near his best at the UK Open and got all the way to the final. That's the frightening thing. That was probably, you know, he had his mum over, he had his fiancée over, you know, he had a fair few distractions. His first UK Open, it's his first year as a pro. I mean, we know what's capable because we've seen Rob Cross do it last year. You know, he was in the same position as Corey Cadby finds himself in right this minute.
I think it's like we mentioned earlier about someone else. He's got nothing to lose at the moment. He very much is enjoying darts. He's thriving on everything that's getting given to him. And for me, including him into the World Series is not only going to better him as a person and allow him to learn about different things in the world of darts, in terms of going to these places, experiencing other cultures, understanding how players are away from home and things like this. But he's got a chance to stand up on a stage in front of X so many thousand people.
And he loves it.
And he adores it. And you can see it in his face when he wins a leg that that one leg, he knows, can make a difference in one game or in his career or whatever. I think he talks a lot about Mac Elkin, his manager, and his stable that he plays with. They're like a family.
Yeah,
and they I think Dan Dawson mentioned it on the stream. I think when he won his first UK Open qualifier this year, he just beat Kyle to get to the final, and Kyle was sat backstage supporting him.
Yeah, I don't think it's a coincidence when you look at the stable of players. Dimitri was Glenn Durrant, who defended his world title. Now he's gone his own way because, he didn't go, as we know, as a big talking point, didn't join the PDC, and I think they felt that maybe they couldn't go any further forward. Yeah. But yeah, Kim Ibrets, Dimitri, Kyle, Mensah was with them for a while, Yella. And now Corey. It's no coincidence. They all travel together. They're a very tight unit. They look after each other, and that's great for a young player coming through. And I don't think I'm trying to think in every other sport that has any other sport at any time had so many potential champions in the making. Young, up and coming guys that have limited experience, but oodles of ability.
They're raring to go.
Yeah.
And you see,
and they all fancy it, but not in an arrogant way. And that's one thing with Corey that I have to say. I mean, when I first come across Corey, I was impressed with his ability that you couldn't be. Playing Phil Taylor in front of all them people and beating him live on TV. But did I like his demeanour, his attitude, his mannerisms? No, I didn't. And I was the first one to say, not because, for me, I thought that'll hold you back. We've discussed it so many times with players that want to go up there and give it big Billy, and then struggle to deal with the repercussions of what comes with that.
Yeah.
Totally different player this year. Can't believe it. I mean, he has matured so much in such a short space of time, and he does listen. And when we both had the opportunity to talk to him in length at Lakeside during the World Championship, he was there with Mac to support Glenn, etc. And I just couldn't believe what a transformation in a guy that I thought, there's no way I'm going to like this fella.
Yeah.
We're going to clash. Absolutely loved him to bits, and really enjoyed watching him grow even further during the UK Open. And like I said, this guy's just going to grow and grow and grow and grow. And there's an endless list of young players that are chomping at the bit.
Yeah.
Who think they can win.
I think going back to Corey, I think it's right what you say. He's grown up. For me, in the last 2 years, he's grown up, not only as a player, but as a person, and being around people like Glenn Durant, who are going to Lakeside to defend a World Championship. He's moved to England, left his family back in Australia, gone back to get married. They're all life experiences that this guy...
he's a baby, he's 22.
Yeah.
He's 22, and I think we tend to forget that because we see them on TV playing in the senior format. We go, he's a grown man, he shouldn't do this or he shouldn't do that. He's 22, he's a baby.
Yeah.
So yeah, all credit to him. I'm excited. I think this year, I think we could have 6 different winners this year. The sport now has never been better. The growth continues. The prize money continues to go up. Viewing figures, audience figures. It's just remarkable of where the sport is right now to where it was, and that is down, albeit down to the PDC and Matchroom and Barry and everything else. But it's just down to the way the sport has grown, and now we're beginning to reap the rewards, And then we got that next generation, the JDC, which then goes on to play in development tour. Then you've got everything's taken care of now. It's now a serious profession, and something that parents will go, I wouldn't mind my child being a professional dart player.
For me, it's something that I'm looking into personally a lot at the moment, the globalisation, the mediation, the commercialisation of darts. And for me, looking back at the sport 20th, I'm not when you played, Chris. No disrespect, but
we had nothing. But there was I remember playing in some BDO youth stuff.
Yeah.
But there was nothing really. I think I won a £25 MFI voucher, which I gave to my dad, and I can't remember what they bought.
That's brilliant.
And that was the final of the British teenage. But that was it. There was nothing. I had to go. We don't really want kids going in pubs at 13 and 14. I had to. I had no choice. There was nowhere else for me to play. The youth club wasn't really particularly well organised. Most people want to play five-a-side football or table tennis or, anything else but darts. Where now you've got the systems in place. I think your dad's got an academy.
Down
Exeter way. I should know, it's not far from me. And it's professionally run. I went to the JDC headquarters a couple of weeks ago. It's now been endorsed by Michael van Gerwen, who's putting his own money into it as well. And it's like you would expect a football academy to be. It's a professional environment. It's guided. The kids learn about respect and, how to treat their opponents and etiquette on the hockey. All these things that none of us had when we were coming through. It's just, I'm totally envious, but I'm also pleased. I love this sport. It's not my baby, but, I absolutely love the game. And to see where it is now is thrilling. And the next, never mind about the next 7-8 months of this year. What's the next 5-6 years going to be like?
Exactly, and I think talking about the JDC and Steve Brown, for me, it's already sold itself. Yeah. Bradley Brooks. Yeah. Look, he's a 16-year-old lad.
Jared Cole
averaged averaged 92 against Ryan Searle this weekend and went 4-4. Mm-hmm. And this is a guy that's came through that system. They've learned the karate belts in terms of the colours of the shirts. It really is a clever piece of.
And to give you an example, Steve Brown, I played darts with his dad. Yeah. And his dad's pub, the White Hart in Redfield, was my home practice board, and I'd be in there every day. And Steve Brown would come in about 4 o'clock with his school bag, dump it down, and play darts till his mum shouted his tea was ready. And that was all he had. But that's what it was like back then. Yeah. And you don't want them in that pub environment anymore. The game has moved on.
I agree.
And it's just so nice to see. And for someone sort of like me and Steve have been close since I've known him since he was a baby. Yeah. Because I've been friends with his parents for years. So to see him actually grasp what he wanted and what he thought was best, implement it, and now the growth. It's in Australia, Ireland. It is a global. It's a global. A global idea that's gathered so much pace. We're not going to be too far away where this produces a world champion. Yeah. And then it's proven that it was right.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant. I think, for me, the way I look at it and the way I perceived it in terms of contrasting it against football as well is Manchester United have a youth academy. Yeah. Now, the PDC, technically, have a youth academy. Yes. And
well, they've endorsed it, haven't they?
It's filtering through, and it's just going to go up. And we're going to get stars that have come from...
And more importantly, even if they don't make it, it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
I never won a world title, but I loved playing darts. And there's no reason, there's no success or failure in it. Ultimately, if you play a sport that you enjoy, that you've been taught how to play properly and how to enjoy it as a sport, and that's what this JDC is all about. There's no winners or losers. No. And that's the idea I love about it.
Counts, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's teaching the kids, again, it's putting them in an environment with other kids, teaching about respect. You go to one of these academies, there's no kids running around screaming or swearing.
They take it seriously.
Yeah,
they really do take it seriously.
And these people are doing it off their own back. They volunteer. And it's done in the right environment. Yeah. The boards are set up perfect. I was amazed by it, absolutely amazed by it, because it's just such a transformation of what. In the space of 20 odd years, what was there and what's there now?
We'll move quickly back onto the Premier League and what's happened in the last 3 months. But one last thing for me regarding the JDC is, obviously I've been there and watched the academy firsthand when Dad's doing it himself in the bar. And these kids have came and they're out this big. And before they get there, they couldn't. Obviously they're at school, they're learning the times tables and mathematics. And for me as a person, when I was a kid, I could never do times tables. I couldn't even count. Yeah. As soon as I was introduced to a dartboard, all of a sudden now I'm at university and I'm thinking, hang on a minute, all this is really for me stemmed from a dartboard, and it's amazing. And I think credit to Steve Brown, credit to Mark Durbridge, credit to all the volunteers that have an academy. It really is spectacular.
It certainly is.
Let's move back onto the darts. Of course, last 3 months for me has been a weird one. In terms of, like you said, Michael's not playing as well as we all think he can and should do. Peter Wright's up and down, Barney, and Phil's not here. For me, with Phil not being there, I was not worried for the sport, but I was interested to see which way it was going to go now, and who was going to take his way, and who was going.
Are you shocked with Rob Cross not having won one of the players or one of the UK Open qualifiers?
Personally, after what we said, I think back at Lakeside, I'm not. No. Because we said straight away, this guy now will have to overcome experiences in terms of going on the news. He's got to go and have interviews. He's got to go and have photo shoots. He's got to go and stand there for 2 hours and let a Target photographer take a picture of his new shirt. He didn't have to do that last year.
All he had to worry about was turning up and playing darts.
All he had to worry about was walking his dog, turning up, having 3 hours practice, and driving to Barnsley on a weekend.
Yeah.
And now, and this is the whole globalisation of the sport. It's not only just throwing darts at a dartboard anymore.
No, you've got to learn how to deal with the media,
exactly.
How to get sponsors, Target, looking after his manufacturers, endorsing things, doing interviews constantly.
Even tweeting.
I've been trying to interview him on my show and I can't get him on. But yeah, I'm not shocked either. He was a player that was again, he's still nowhere near the finished article.
No.
That there's so much more to come from him, and that's even more exciting. If he can produce that level that we know he's capable of, that he did, especially in that final against Taylor. I mean, that was remarkable for a guy playing in his first World Championships. It's still, I'm still like that now. I watch it on YouTube thinking, how?
In a way, it gives me goosebumps because I think for any bloke or any guy or any lady that's ever played darts in a pub, we all know how many levels and stages you have to go through as a player to feel confident, feel natural on the board, understand what you're going for. And for him to go, he wasn't even playing professional darts for a year.
No.
He hadn't even. And he went from a Riley's qualifier in Norwich to the World Championship final against Phil Taylor in his last ever game. It really is amazing.
It is and it's not. And again, we say about darts and the growth of it. It was the Isle of Man Open the other weekend, and there were some insane averages there. I think Paul Hogan had 130 odd, or 137. I think Glenn Durrant had an average of 133.
Yeah.
I mean, the game everywhere is, and it filters down. I know, BDO, PDC or whatever, but when you see the game grow,
it's amazing.
It does tend to drag you along.
And just a quick mention to Mr. Parletti, who came.
Yes.
He was ill a couple of months back.
What a fabulous. He was in hospital abroad for
months. I think it was 2 months.
Yeah.
And he's come back and won the Isle of Man Classic. Amazing.
Yeah, well done, Dave.
Well done, mate. It really does show. And I've seen a lot of things on Twitter. Everyone's supporting him. And that, for me, as dart fans and a fanatic regarding darts, it's amazing to see other players that probably played him on that day or got beat by him, and everyone just loves the fact that
it is very much a cliche about darts as a family. But ultimately, if you get a load of lads and they're all travelling together and you're all going for the same thing, everybody does look out for each other. You have your little cliques and your little groups, but everybody sort of dug in and raised a few quid for Dave while he was over there, because I think he didn't have any insurance, which caused him huge problems. But amazing to come back from that, where I spoke to him several times when he was in hospital and he was very low, and ill, seriously ill. That just shows you how much talent is there and how much love for the sport is there, because he was, welcomed back with open arms and everybody was pleased to see him, not just back, but well and back playing some darts, and then he goes and wins a ranking event. So all credit to him.
Finally, bring it back to the PDC. Two players that me personally think is a very big year for is Dave Chisnall and Adrian Lewis.
We'll throw James Wade in there.
And James Wade as well. I think all three players have got talent. We know they've got talent. Adrian, he's shown some form over the last 3 months.
Yeah, he has, He's playing okay.
And Dave's been playing well as well. I think maybe being taken out of the Premier League might be helping them both to practice and concentrate what they need to be doing.
Yeah, I think so. I think they've started to maybe go a little bit stale. I'm not sure that the ambition was there how it used to be. Especially for Dave, he's made so many finals, and I've been in that same. I was in that same group where in the end just think it just ain't never going to happen. And then you think, well, I didn't play darts to come second, third, fourth, or get to the last 8 every week. Although now you probably wouldn't mind, because you're doing a very, very nice living, which we'll talk about a little later. But I think it's refreshed them, it's reinvigorated them all. And what's even better for them is all these kids we've discussed, your Jeffrey Deswans, your De Graaf, they're all ready to replace them in the rankings. They're queuing up, going, well, if you don't produce, I'm gonna, you can get my place, I'll have yours. And that will. I'm not concerned for all three, to be honest. If there was one I was a little bit worried about, it was Adrian, because I wasn't sure whether he still loved the game or not. But as you said, the last few months he's played well on that Pro Tour. He's been putting in some big averages. Made the semi of the last event last Sunday. It's a big year, and they have to step up. Otherwise, that slip, you just keep sliding and sliding and sliding, and then then you hit the panic button, and then you're in trouble.
There we go. Big year for a lot of players this year. Great 3 months just had. Let's wait and see what happens in the rest of the year. Thank you.